Welcome back everyone. In this video, we'll show you what we managed to stitch together from our old project. In case you missed the last video, we challenged ourselves to remake one of our old projects just to get back into the habit of making video games. The game is called Cloudy with a Chance of Guano, and it's about a bird that releases his bowel movements on unsuspecting pedestrians. We won't dive too much into the background of the project. If you're interested, you can find a link to our previous video in the description. There's not a lot that's worth salvaging from the old Unity project, so we're going to condemn it to the dark depths of the recycling bin. And in this video, we're going to start remaking the game from scratch.
At the start of every project, I like to make a document to make everything look more formal and professional. Well, scrap the professional part, but there's a saying, if there isn't a document, then it isn't official. This document gets updated throughout the project depending on how our ideas turn out. Even if the document doesn't cover everything, we have long, extensive conversations about the finer details.
Alright, it's time to generate the new Godot project. We've made a couple of projects already, so I kind of know my way around the interface. Let's start by making the main character. I make a new Node 2D scene, change the scene type to Animated Sprite 2D, and now I'm going to import the previous artwork just so we can have something on the screen quickly. Adjust the column sizes, select the frames I want, and there we go. We have an animated player. Let's just turn it on and speed the frames up quickly. Next, I'm going to add the poop projectile. I'm going to change its type to Rigid Body 2D. Rigid bodies are good for items and objects that are controlled by physics. In this case, we want the poop to be controlled by gravity. I'm going to give it a Sprite 2D node, and in here, I'm going to assign the old sprite, which is this little droplet over here. And also, I'm going to give it a collision shape, so this will tell the engine how to collide with this object. This will be relevant when we make the pedestrians later on. Now I'm going to move the object in the middle to help me preview the scene better, and let's click preview, and there it is, falling thanks to gravity. Next, I'm going to give the bird the ability to fire these projectiles. So first I'll add a timer node, which determines the duration between shots, and next I'll add a script to the player. You'll notice that a default script has a ready method, which runs every time the game object is instantiated, and a process which runs on every frame. I'll paste in some code that I wrote behind the scenes. And finally, what I need to do is make sure that the timer's timeout signal is connected to the script. Alright, and let's see this in action. And there it is. Every time I press a button, the bird fires a projectile. Next, I'll make the roads. They're pretty simple. So for them, I use a character body 2D, which is a type of object that's controlled by scripts as opposed to physics. So with them, I just gave them a negative velocity so they keep moving left at a consistent rate. Next, I created a road spawner game object. This is a simple object that uses a timer to create instances of the road. I use the same technique for all the pedestrians. They're also just a character body 2D that moves to the left at a fixed rate. Here you can see the code. They also have fancy death animations that makes them do backflips when they get hit. Then I put it all together in one big scene. I added 4 target spawner nodes. One on the top and bottom for the sidewalk. These only spawn pedestrians, bicycles, and old ladies, and 2 in the middle that spawn vehicles and bread. I also put 2 cloud spawners in the sky just to add more detail into the background. And, uh-oh, looks like we have our very first traffic jam. Okay, let's investigate. So, to prevent the targets from colliding amongst themselves, all I did is to simply put each kind of target into its own separate collision layer. Apart from this, there was one more bug that I encountered. Character body and rigid body 2Ds wouldn't collide correctly most of the time. I'm still using a beta build of Godot 4, so I'm expecting this to be fixed when the final build comes out. So to get around this bug, I added an area 2D node to the projectile which reliably collides all the time. Next, let's have a look at how the new artwork is coming along.
Since we had relatively okay artwork for the game jam, I've opened up the project files and worked a little on them. Following the game document I've created, the field has been extended to allow certain enemies to have their own lane. This helps to set the player's expectations of each enemy and where to reserve their ammunition for points. For the time being, I've updated the old sprites with the new art style without animating them to give you an idea on what the game will look like when it's done. Do keep in mind that this is an in-progress video. What you see in this video doesn't mean that it will be in the final product. That's completely normal when developing a project. Honestly, I'm fond of the music I made back in 2019. Since I'm using new software, I'll quickly show you how I've made it. Firstly, I just take a sim that sounds close enough to the original. In FL Studio, FreeX Oscillator sounds relatively similar. After that, I paint in the notes. For the original song I used the MIDI controller, but now I'll just do it like this. And there we have the main menu bass line. The song has three parts. The main menu part, where the instruments only have a few notes and sound a bit slow. The main game, where the instruments have more notes and sound more upbeat. And the little solo part, same as the last one, but with an additional instrument giving the song more life. This part was a bit difficult to record without a MIDI keyboard, but thankfully FL Studio has great automation controls which allows me to make a single note sound like this. There will be different styles in the main song in the end that you will be able to choose from, but for now, here's the version that you're probably used to, because it was in the background of this video the whole time. For the sound effects it's simple. Since there's a very chiptune vibe in the project, I've just used some notes and slapped on some effects on them to make them sound nicer. That's about it for this video. You've seen us how we started a new project in a new game engine, how we've created a plan and assets, putting them in Godot and making the basics of the game.
In the next video, we'll show you the process of remaking the main menu, the game over screen, as well as some new challenging game modes. We hope you found this video informative. Consider subscribing if you want to see how the game turns out. Thanks for watching.